NiceTwice is a top Minecraft speedrunner who has had a few world records in pretty major categories. He's been a top runner for quite a while and on YouTube has amassed over 14,000 subscribers. For the past while, he hasn't been focusing on 1.16 RSG, more things like FSG and 1.8 RSG. But recently, he's gotten back into 1.16 RSG, trying to beat his previous personal best of 14 minutes and 1 second. This run was really interesting because it was a classic strats run and didn't have any bastions involved. But he knew that if he wanted to get a new personal best, he would have to get a bastion. And on the 20th of October, he managed to get a seed that had all the things that he needed to beat his previous personal best. And in today's video, I'm going to be explaining how NiceTwice managed to beat his previous personal best of 14 minutes and 1 second and get a time of 13 minutes and 46 seconds. NiceTwice spawns into the world facing a lava pool, and when he turns around, he sees a nearby village. He travels over to the village, getting some wood from the house pillars so he can craft a pickaxe and get some stone. With the cobblestone that he got at the bottom of the house, he uses it to craft a stone axe and a stone shovel. You might be thinking, why did he completely skip out on a stone pickaxe? Well, since he's planning on going in a bastion later in the run, he's hoping to get some iron from the bastion chests. So instead of having to craft a stone pickaxe, he can use the wooden one until he can go to an iron one. After he crafts his tools, he searches around and finds a nearby iron golem, stacks up and then kills it, getting a few pieces of iron. He searches around the village a little bit more, seeing if he missed any essential things for the run. Once he can confirm he doesn't need to get anything else from the village, he goes to a nearby group of hay bales and gets 4 of them and then crafts his food. In my opinion, getting 4 hay bales is really cool to see, since most speedrunners collect 5, and before that, no one really collected less than 7, so now that we're down to only 4 hay bales is really cool in my eyes. But moving on, he crafts a bucket and then searches around hoping he can find a pool of water so he can build his nether portal. After a little bit of searching, he spots one, gets some water, and then runs over to the lava pool. Once he arrives, he starts to build his portal and then has to do a strategy called wood lighting. Since he doesn't have any flint or any extra iron for a flint and steel, he can't use that to light his portal, so he has to use wood and lava to light the portal. On Bedrock Edition, this is a very useful strategy as it takes a really little amount of time for a portal to light with the wood light technique. Whereas on Java, it's extremely lucky whether your portal actually lights or not, so this isn't a very good strategy over on Java. But if you're willing to take the risk, you can, but it might take a little while if you're a bit unlucky. Almost instantly, NiceTwice's portal lights and then he enters the nether at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Once he arrives into the nether, he does a strategy called E-Raying. This strategy allows you to scan around the nether, finding things that you can't actually see, so you can scout out things like bastions. Once he works out the direction of the bastion, he looks over in that way and notices that he can see the bastion. He can work out that it is a stables type, which at times can be very good or very bad. This is because of good gaps and bad gaps. Good gaps is where you can get a ton of gold blocks so you can craft them and trade them with piglins, whereas bad gaps just give you a chest where you can get gold blocks from the chest, but it isn't as reliable as a good gap. There are also things called triple chests where you can also get an extra 4 gold blocks from there, which you can use that as a high roll route. You won't typically do this route unless you're playing for world record or an extremely fast time, or if you get a triple chest, which is what it's oftenly referred to if you get a triple chest 3 times. With that out of the way, he travels over to the bastion while getting a few blocks so he can build up. He then searches all around the bastion hoping for chests, since remember that he didn't have any iron, so he's hoping to find some iron in the chests. After searching through a ton of chests, he doesn't manage to find any iron, but he does get a lot of gold blocks and a lot of gold ingots, so he decides to trade those with the piglins, hoping to get some iron and any other essential items. Lucky enough for him, he actually manages to pull some iron, and he crafts those iron nuggets into iron ingots, and those iron ingots into an iron pickaxe. He then goes down and checks if he has a good gap in the stables, which he does, and then he goes to trade the gold blocks down in the good gap with his piglins. After getting all the gold blocks and throwing them at the piglins, and then waiting for a little bit, he can see that he has all the pearl trades and all the string trades and any other essential items that he needs for the rest of the run, so he leaves the bastion. He then does a strategy called Pida, which is basically E-raying but for a fortress. It's not as simple as E-raying, as it takes quite a bit longer if you're in some pretty bad terrain, but if you're in pretty decent terrain, this strategy can be pulled off pretty easily. It basically allows you to use the pie chart on your F3 screen if you open it up a little bit larger to work out the direction of a spawner. This can be a spawner from a treasure bastion, but you're really hoping that it's from a fortress instead. If you want to learn this strategy, I'll leave a link to it in the description. Once he works out the direction of the spawner, he travels in that direction, throwing a few pearls so he can arrive there a little bit quicker. He then spots the fortress and then pearls one more time, pearling right up to the blaze spawner. He proceeds to kill the blazes that have already spawned and gets a few rods from those. Then he does a strategy called blaze bedding, which allows you to blow up the nearby vicinity using a bed. Since beds blow up in the nether and the end, we can use this to blow up a bit of the blaze spawner, since opening out the blaze spawner allows blazes to spawn a lot quicker. This is a pretty simple strategy, but again, I'll leave a link in the description of a tutorial if you don't know how to do this strategy already. Once he finishes up with the strategy, he immediately sees that blazes have already spawned again, showing the powers of this strategy. He then waits a few more cycles for blazes to spawn, and then he kills those blazes, and then goes for 8 for 10 on blaze rods. He leaves off with 7 blaze rods since one of the blaze rods dropped from the blaze spawner down to the ground, which was a lot farther down. So instead of going down to get an 8th rod, he just decides to play with 7. 7 is still really good though, because if you have 7 in a run, you shouldn't have to really worry about not having enough Eyes of Ender to enter the end. He then proceeds to build his blind portal right at the blaze spawner, then lighting it and exiting the nether at 9 minutes and 30 seconds. Here is where most speedrunners would do a strategy called calculated travel. This is where you throw 2 Eyes of Ender about 16 to 32 blocks away and work out the distance of the stronghold using a chart. The higher the angle change, the closer the stronghold should be to you. The lower the angle change, the further it should be away from you. Once you work out how far it is, you divide that number by 8 and then travel that far in the nether and then build a second blind portal. But because NiceTwice didn't get enough obsidian in the bastion, he decides to just throw some pearls to get to the stronghold quicker, and going the way the Eyes of Ender pointed him to. He spends a few minutes running while throwing some pearls so he can get to the stronghold a little bit faster, and once he's inside of the ring and thinks he's pretty close to the stronghold, he starts doing some old triangulation. This triangulation technique isn't bad, but it's a lot less optimized than the other versions. But it doesn't matter, because he still works out the chunk of the starter room, and then starts digging down at the 4th forward block of the chunk. This means he is in the exact starter room of the stronghold, meaning he is about 5 to 10 rooms away from the portal room. He then spends a few minutes searching around the stronghold trying to find the portal room, and after about a minute and a half of searching around, he ends up finding the portal room. He then crafts the rest of the Eyes of Ender that he needs to, then fills in the end portal frames with the Eyes of Ender, and then enters the end. Once he enters the end, he digs out of the cage that he spawns in, and then travels to the center of the fountain. He then sets up his 1 cycle and then does a strategy to make the dragon perch faster. If you want to learn how to do this strategy, just go on YouTube in the search bar and search up Dragon D's Nuts. Sorry about that, I think my microphone cut out a little bit. Anyway, once NiceTwice turns around after doing the strategy, he sees that the dragon has already perched, which is extremely rare. Since he can't do the 1 cycle with the dragon already perched, he has to wait for the dragon to leave the center and then perch again. He only has to wait about 45 seconds for the dragon to do this, which is actually really lucky since there's a 1 in 13 chance for the dragon to perch, and it perched twice in 2 cycles. When NiceTwice sees the dragon perch, he throws a pearl to the center and then clutches out a 5 bed 1 cycle and then finishes the game in 13 minutes and 46 seconds, and I'll let you watch the 1 cycle for yourself. Congratulations to NiceTwice on his new 1346 1.16.1 RSGPB, and I really hope you get that sub 12 really soon. If you haven't already, go subscribe to NiceTwice as his content is pretty interesting and I think you'd like it. And if you liked my analysis enough, consider subscribing to me as well, as I'm trying to hit 500 subscribers this month so I can hit 1000 by the end of the year, and I can't do it without you guys. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed and I hope I see you in the next video. Goodbye everyone.